Welcome to Eternal Focus, devotions to inspire your walk with God. Unity in diversity, finding God through His people. How good and pleasant it is when God's people live together in unity. Psalm 133, verse 1. What does community mean to you? Is it a place where you feel known, supported, and encouraged? Or is it simply a gathering of people, tied together by loose bonds but lacking deeper connection? For many of us, the concept of true community can feel elusive. At times we struggle to relate to an unseen God. But the beauty of community is that God often chooses to reveal Himself through the people around us, His people. Community, at its heart, is about more than just being together. It's about a shared commitment to unity and purpose. Community as commitment to unity. Unity is not about uniformity. It's not about everyone looking the same, acting the same, or thinking the same. Rather, it's about different people, each with their own skills, perspectives, and roles, coming together with a shared goal. Unity in diversity is the foundation of a strong community. The Amalekites came and attacked the Israelites at Rephidim. Moses said to Joshua, "Choose some of our men and go out to fight the Amalekites. Tomorrow I will stand on top of the hill with the staff of God in my hands." So Joshua fought the Amalekites as Moses had ordered, and Moses, Aaron, and Hur went to the top of the hill. As long as Moses held up his hands, the Israelites were winning, but whenever he lowered his hands, the Amalekites were winning. When Moses' hands grew tired, they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat on it. Aaron and Hur held his hands up, one on one side, one on the other, so that his hands remained steady till sunset. So Joshua overcame the Amalekite army with the sword. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Write this on a scroll as something to be remembered and make sure that Joshua hears it, because I will completely blot out the name of Amalek from under heaven." Moses built an altar and called it "The Lord is my banner." He said, "Because hands were lifted up against the throne of the Lord will be at war against the Amalekites from generation to generation." Exodus 17, verses 8 to 16. In this passage, we see a powerful example of this in action. When the Amalekites attacked the Israelites, it wasn't just one person who secured the victory, it was an entire community working together. Moses held up his staff, symbolizing God's power and authority. Joshua led the men in battle, fighting on the front lines. Aaron and Hur supported Moses, holding up his arms when he grew weary. The rest of the people prayed, cared for the children, prepared meals, and ensured the camp functioned. Each person played a critical role. No task was more important than another. They were all essential. It was the commitment of each individual to their unique role that brought unity and ultimately secured victory. The power of supporting one another. One of the most inspiring aspects of this story is the role of Aaron and Hur. Their task wasn't flashy or dramatic. They weren't fighting on the battlefield or performing miracles. Instead, they stood beside Moses, watching over him and stepping in when he could no longer hold up the staff on his own. Sometimes, the greatest acts of service in a community are quiet and behind the scenes. It's the encouragement offered to a weary friend, the prayer whispered for someone in need, or the willingness to step into the gap for someone who can't carry their burden alone. Aaron and Hur remind us that watching out for one another is an ancient and sacred foundation of community. When we commit to supporting each other, we create an environment where God's presence and power can flow freely. Encountering God through community. Many of us long for a deeper relationship with God, but don't know where to start. The truth is, finding God often begins with finding community. When we surround ourselves with His people, those who are committed to living in unity, we create opportunities to experience God's presence in tangible ways. It might be through a kind word spoken around a bonfire, reminding you of your worth. It might be the bottle of water handed to someone in need during an outreach, showing God's love in action. It might be the quiet prayer of a friend who stands by your side during a difficult season. These moments, though small, reflect the heart of God and remind us that He is near. Your role in the community. Like the Israelites, each of us has a role to play in the community of God's people. You may not be called to lead on the front lines like Joshua or to hold up a staff like Moses, but your role is no less important. Whether it's through acts of service, words of encouragement, prayer, or simply showing up for others, you have a unique contribution to make. Finding your place in a Christian community isn't just about receiving support, it's also about offering it. When you step into the gap for someone else, you become an answer to their prayer. And in the process, you draw closer to God, experiencing His presence in the shared commitment to unity. Discover deeper your call to unity. Take some time to reflect on these questions. What does community mean to you? How have you experienced unity in diversity? How does being involved with God's people help you grow in your relationship with Him? Where can you step up to contribute your time, energy, or gifts to build unity in your community? Unity doesn't happen by accident. It requires intentionality, commitment, and a willingness to serve. But when we come together with a shared purpose, God shows up in incredible ways. So let's take a step closer to one another, knowing that as we do, we also take a step closer to God. Let's be a community that supports, uplifts, and inspires. Let's commit to unity and watch how God moves in and through us. When community shows up, God shows off. Will you be part of the movement? Thank you for joining me today in Eternal Focus, devotions to inspire your walk with God.